G'day, ladies and gents. Thanks so much for tuning into the Bigger Picture podcast. Today on our podcast, we've got Dominic Bagnato. He's, I guess, having a bit of a conversation in regards to demystifying grassroots property development and how you can sort of get into the game without all the restrictions. Himself and his partner, they've sort of, I guess, built a bit of a reputation doing developments and architecture works within Melbourne CBD on some quite funky designs. And he's going to be breaking down the art of telling a good story and how powerful that is and how that can translate to value and difference in careers. If you like our stuff, shoot us a like, send us a comment on who you'd like us to interview next. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start would be, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay. So from Melbourne, and I wear many hats, but my first hat really is I'm an architect, and I'm a commercial and domestic builder, property developer, buy and sell property, even have my sub-agent's license. But I have all of that because I just didn't want to be a regular architect in my early years. I wanted to have that expanded knowledge to understand the full spectrum. And I didn't know it in my early years, but because I have that full spectrum, I've really been able to help a lot of my clients in their property developments, in my own property developments. But my love always has been architecture. I always wanted to be an architect.
And where do you think that started, or where that came from?
That started really early, and people don't believe it, but it's a true story. But when I was 7 years old, I knew I wanted to be an architect. And sometimes it comes, you know how people have mentors in their life?
Yeah.
You know, I had mentors in my life, but unfortunately for me, and it's a bit sad, I didn't know they were mentors. I just now know.
Looking back.
Steve Jobs says, look back and connect the dots. How do you become who you become? So when I was 7, I was moving schools. And so we were a novelty at the school because I have 5 brothers and a sister. So we're quite a large family.
Pretty big
so we were a
home.
bit novelty at primary school, all these 5 boys at the time. And so we were leaving a void in the school because 5 boys were going. And a school teacher that gave me the most simplest of gifts, and I'm going to show my age, but she just simply gave me a wooden ruler, HB pencil, and a rubber. And I know in this age of technology, we think that's nothing, but back in the 70s, that was a big deal to a young boy, right? So I started drawing. I just loved to draw. And when I was in primary school, I met another young boy. He loved to draw, so we just doodled. But something really interesting happened to me in high school is I knew I wanted to draw and possibly be an architect, not understanding what that was. But a couple of things happened. My dad used to take me to work on school holidays. So my dad was a concreter, worked on road construction. So on school holidays, starting at the age of 8, he put me in the car. I'd get there. We'd leave in darkness, but we would arrive as the sun was rising. And so as the sun was rising, I'd see all of these Tonka trucks because I was a little tacker.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the smell of diesel, these big trucks. And I knew I wanted to be in the construction industry and I wanted to be, doing what they do. So when I got to year 7, I did art. I did graphics as a subject.
Yeah.
And I happened to have those same 2 teachers from year 7 to year 12.
Wow.
So, but more than that, if timetables clashed and they weren't able to be my teachers, they sought out permission from the principal to be my teacher outside of school hours. So they had made it up in their mind they wanted to mentor me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
This wasn't based on any skill level, just that's the way they were.
They must have recognized something.
They were beautiful people.
Yeah.
More than that, especially the art teacher, Louise Speck, she would take me and other kids, this would be unheard of now, she'd ask permission from our parents, she'd take us to galleries on weekends, excursions. This is non-school sanctioned stuff.
She would take the kids out on an excursion,
she would take us to hotel buffets to teach us the etiquette of eating. This is unheard of, right? So she once made the remark to my mum, and I've never forgotten this. She never had children. Dom's the child I'll never have.
Wow.
I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
And so when you're mentored from year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, and you keep going. And so when it came to year 11, she understood. So I was from a large family, 7 kids, and I'm not saying we were destitute, but we didn't have money, right?
Yeah.
We had a home, loving life, but we just didn't have all the trappings of life. She knew at that age I would have to see my way through university because Dad didn't have enough money to sustain 7 kids, just impossible.
Yeah.
So she said, look, I know you won't be able to go to university. You'll be paying your way. So I want to teach you something. So she sat me down and taught me how to do 3D rendering. You know how you do 3D rendering by computer, but by hand.
Wow.
I'm going to teach you how to do 3D rendering. And in those days, the market, the way homes were sold were through 3D renderings. So the print media would print houses done by sketch artists because it was cheaper to print those than a photograph.
That's
right?
going back a bit, isn't
It's
it?
going back. I'm sorry. Okay,
So this is groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah.
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 So I set up a little company called Fax Graphics because they were done by fax, right?
Yeah.
And so she says, I'm going to teach you how to do this. Then I'm going to get you to, you're going to go and sell your services to multiple real estate agents in your area. So I went to the real estate agent number 1. Hi, my name is Dominic. I do 3D renderings. I also do floor plans that you need when you list a home so that they go into the newspaper so that you can sell. Okay, what do you charge? I charge $35 for a sketch. I charge $35 for a floor plan. Excellent. We'll do a trial. So they would ring me with an address of a property they listed with the phone number of the owner. I would go there and draw the floor plan and the house. And obviously, I got quicker and better as time went on. And eventually, I had 10 real estate agents, and I was earning back in those days. So we're talking now around 1985 to say 92. $350 a week I was earning.
So it's big money at the time.
Well, if you convert that today, it's $850 to $1,000.
And how old were you?
I started at 17.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's
So
phenomenal.
once she taught me that, I now had an income. So I got to university, and we stayed friends after that. After university, and I met a couple of young guys at university, and I taught them, and they did their suburb, and the other guy did his suburb. I did my suburb. So we were earning full-time wages while still at school, and I could pump out 10 houses in less than 2 hours.
I think that's a key factor to learn early on. Obviously, supporting yourself, but then also doing it not through a paycheck, but through just you're generating it yourself.
Yeah. So apart from that, I did also get a sales job at Myers.
Yeah.
Where I learned that sales, but I could earn very quick money. So one day the agents, and now I'm going to really show my age. They say, "Hey Dom, you know how you do the sketches and you do the floor plans? There's a thing called Word that's come out." Oh yeah, what's that? Well, apparently you can go onto a computer. You can get computers for home now, right? And you can do any fonts. We need them for our windows. So we've got your sketch with a description of the property. And do you think you can do that? And I said yes, even though I had no idea what he was talking about. So I went home, and my younger brother, much younger, we had bought him a Commodore 64. If anyone wants to look that up, it was the first home computers, right? And I said, "Hey Mel, can you do me this Word document?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "You've got to leave a gap in the middle because I've got to photocopy a sketch of my work in there, and then that brochure goes onto the window. For sale, address, description of the property, and then I'll put my sketch in there and photocopy it. I charge another $35 for that." So now I had the whole package. So that's how I got through university and did really, really well. So I went to university, met these other 2 guys, taught them how to do it. They're now earning incomes. We're all earning incomes. And I said to the boys, "Listen, there's 3 things I want to do in my life. I don't know if you're in or you're out." And they said to me, "What are they?" I said, "I want to travel the world. I want to buy a house and renovate it. and want to own my own business. Are you in?" This is like 2nd year.
Yep.
I said, "We're in." So we did 3rd year, and we took 4th year off completely off university. We had a gap year. So in that gap year, the 3 of us with a 4th friend went and bought a house in Melbourne for $99,000.
Wow, if only you could go back and buy a few more now.
in the city of Melbourne, and we were going to renovate it, do it all ourselves. Our first interest rate was so we got a loan with ANZ Bank.
Yeah.
And they only lent us the money because they liked us. We were go-getters.
Personality test.
Personality, right? Interest rate, 18%.
Oh, wow.
18%.
Wow.
They lent us the money. We bought it, and we spent all our weekends and nights renovating this little house. And at the conclusion of the renovation, the interest rate repayments were higher than the renovation. So when we went to put it on the market, we were going to lose money.
Oh, wow.
So we said to the guys, okay, let's rent it out. And then we backpacked for 6 months around the world. So we bought the house. We said we were going to, and we backpacked around the world. And when we got back, we kept the house in 4th year and 5th year. We finished our course, and then we sold it. And when I did all of the sums, we got our money back and lost all our time. But all 4 of us went on to be architects, developers, builders, call it what you like. It was the best thing that ever happened to us. We learned the most valuable lessons. We put when people say, "Oh, interest rates are 10%," no, when they're 18, have a chat with me. So we set our parameters at different levels, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
We understood construction. We understood costs. To leave university already at that level was fantastic. So there was a bonus having had that. Whereas other people took the year off and did other stuff, we stayed in the industry.
Yeah.
So the silver lining was kind of had a teacher that believed in you, taught you a skill set you could apply and cash flow yourself during university.
If she hadn't have taught me that, it leads to another story. So we finished university, and it's 1993, and there's a downturn in the market. So architects aren't really getting graduates aren't really getting work, and if they are, they're working for free, for peanuts. So I said to my partners, I ain't working for no architect for nothing. Well, I'm already earning more than they are on this. So I said to my friend, why don't we open up our own business? And he said, doing what? I said, we've got our own sort of graphics company. We do graphics for real estate agents. So it wasn't trendy at the time, but we rented out a warehouse shell on top of a trendy part of Melbourne. Warehouse shells went trendy at the time, but we fitted it out. We went to government auctions where they sold off desks. We went to BP's headquarters, BP Petrol. They were selling their curtains. We bought the curtains. We really did it on a shoestring budget. We suddenly had a studio, and there we were facing each other, me and my friends. We're in business, right? But yeah, we had no clients. We just had our real estate agents work, right?
Yeah.
But we felt alive, We were in business. We were in trendy part of Melbourne, Carlton. We would walk down if people know Lygon Street, all the restaurants and cafes. So, but this is where things took a turn for the better. So agents were ringing us every week. My area, so we had 30 agents in our stable. Then they started saying, hey, the house that you drew last week? Well, the guy that bought it, he's a developer. He's looking for an architect. Aren't you guys architects? And we said, yeah, we studied architecture. Well, here's his number, ring him. So from 1993, we started getting work via our real estate sketches. So the developer work grew and grew and grew to the point where it was greater than the sketches. So we killed the sketch business off.
And you didn't intentionally chase it; it just kind of came to you.
Agents kept feeding us work, and it just grew and grew. And before we knew it, we had developer clients on our books. We were getting development approvals through council. We became known as the go-to people because our success rate was 100%. We started converting buildings in Melbourne, which gained traction. It was a new phenomenon where they were gentrifying inner city Melbourne. So we were converting entire buildings for residential use, and it just grew and grew. And so that one act of kindness from my teacher led to me drawing sketches, which led me to real estate agents, which led to an architecture practice.
It's fascinating.
Which started with a 7-year-old boy getting a ruler, a pen, and a rubber. So you look back and you think, if they weren't there, where would I be?
Could it be a completely different path? Who knows?
Different path. And so that journey then led to, well, I remember being as a kid on these construction sites with Dad, and I missed being there. So I said to my partner, why don't we sit our exams, become registered builders, and we build as well, and become developers? We're doing this for developers. Why don't we do it? So I was at an age when it was easy to get finance. All you had to do is prove that you were working, really. And so we bought our first property, our second property. And so became builders. We built our own projects. Clients love seeing our work because we could be more experimental in our work, and then we could show them what we could do. Let us do it on your properties. And so the business eventually grew to the point where we had an architectural practice, a development business, and we were builders as well. And we grew to a stable of about 15 staff. We put on a third partner to look after. So we almost split the business, the architecture business, the building company, and development company.
And was that because you saw the developers doing well out of the projects, and you're like, oh, we can do that. Why not?
No, it's funny you say that. Developers always ask us to join them. We were hesitant to be partnerships with clients, but only because developers still had a reputation of being a bit rogue.
Yeah.
But I tell you the truth, the real reason it happened is in our heart, we're architects. So we love design, and we love seeing our designs realized in real life. Unfortunately, in the developer world, developers change your design. Either illegally, legally, or for whatever reason.
So it's that creative control.
So we used to get really disappointed. We would go see a project and we'd say, God, if you only did the 10% that is the juice of the project, this could be so much better. How can we convince them, that if they spend the money, it'll, resonate with people? We just couldn't do it. And that was the nature of, and we had sort of, created this environment. We attracted developers. We couldn't attract the right ones because we started this reputation of just getting things through, just attracted more of the same. So we said, right, how are we going to see our projects realized? By building them ourselves.
Yeah.
Once we built them, some clients started to see the results. Then we could persuade them. Not all of them, but some of them. Hey, it does pay to go to an architect, and it does pay to execute what they've drawn.
Yeah, it's the age-old saying, build it and they will come.
So we did it initially just because of our ego. We were just, but then obviously we started to financially make money doing that. And also I realized it's a way to, I used to, the term I use, hop, skip, and jump your way into property. So I was single when I started. My girlfriend at university, she's an architect as well. And how are we going to get a home? Like, I know people talk today that housing is unaffordable. It's always been unaffordable at a different scale. So even back then, how are we going to do it? So we did it the developer way. Why don't we do a project? Why don't we buy a house, put 2 dwellings, live in one, move on, do it again and again and again, and hop, skip, and jump from the suburb that we don't want to be in and eventually end up where we want to be. So that's how we've done it. We know a lot of people that have done it. That knowledge of understanding how to carve up property has now enabled me, Marie, and the kids to eventually live in a home. And we don't have our forever home, as we call it, but we're headed towards that.
You're on the trajectory.
We're on the trajectory for the forever home. So that's why we did it. We didn't do it because of the money. No. In fact, we would often do projects, spend more than was required, executed it perfectly, knowing we could have made more if we'd just been hard-nosed developers.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
I guess that's a challenge of being a creative. If you've sort of got this realization or this visualization, you want to execute on it and trying to balance the two between profitability and bringing your vision to life. Like, where do you kind of draw the line in amongst that?
So it all comes down to the type of developer you're attracting. So there are architects in the marketplace that have great clients, great developers that will execute their vision. We had some like that, and we had many they were lovely people, and purely they didn't execute, not because they were awful or they were greedy. They just didn't have the vision or the knowledge or hire the right people who didn't understand the drawings. Sometimes it just came to, they just had the wrong executors for the project.
Yeah.
And they honestly couldn't see the difference. Oh, well, we still made money. We still sold it. They couldn't see the difference.
Yeah, but to you, that's, not the same, not the vision that you had. I'm curious that I'm not an overly creative person. We work in finance, probably not the best place to be creative in that
Speak
space.
for yourself.
Well, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is a bit of a problem solving involved and that sort of thing. But I'm curious to know, like, you see a project or you have a development and there's an existing dwelling or property there now and you're looking at it. What's that process when you actually sit down and create this plan? And you did it at the cafe we're at just now. You sort of, this is what I'll do. This is what I'll do with this. What does it actually look like
It's really
What's your
funny
process
because
there?
you know, there's when someone brings me off the cuff and says, "Hi, Dominic, I have a property. It's 600 square meters. How many units can I fit on there?" I always say one, and they go, "What? One? Oh, sorry, I meant 10. Oh no, it's 5." And then I eventually say to them, "Do you know it's not the property that tells the story?" Like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's not the property. It's everything outside of the property. It's the constraints and the neighboring properties and all of that that will dictate
Oh,
Oh, that's-
auto likes,
uh,
auto likes.
that'll dictate what the property can do."
Yeah.
That's a secret. There are two things we look at. Yes, we do look at the property, but the external parameters tell me more. So I look at that. There are sites that are 300 square meters, and I've put 3. There are sites that are 900 square meters, and I can only put 2 because where the neighboring windows are, walls on boundaries. That it's the constraints and all the features and levels of external factors that affect the property.
So you don't go in there with a predetermined idea. You see what's there and then allow that to sort of build the rest of the
Yeah,
picture.
so you'll go. Oh, well, I'm presuming people go on realestate.com.au, they'll go on domain.com.au, and if they're a developer, they're looking for size of lots, or they're looking for a certain property, certain area. So they're filtering what the filters are on the platforms.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. I disregard all those filters. So I go on the platforms and look at the pretty pictures, and then I zoom in with Street View, and I'm looking at where's the neighbour's driveway, where's the other neighbour's driveway, are there any neighbouring windows on that lot? Where's the light pole? Like I'm looking at everything but the property. So my filtering system that does not exist on the platforms is what determines whether I should go to the next level, which means get in the car and drive there.
Yeah.
Has that changed over time? Like as you've grown the experience to obviously have a few under your belt and obviously assist or
No,
help
it's got more refined,
clients. Right.
way more refined.
So you're more detail heavy
Okay, so
as you
now
incur problems.
it's not only what are the neighbors doing, what are the parameters, is there another story here that can justify why I should be doing way more than what would normally be allowed here? Can I see something that other people can't see? So where is this property? Okay, it's in a residential zone, but it's on the border of a residential zone next to a commercial zone. So even though this residential property, its limits are it's got to be 2 stories, it's got to be all like the others. It really isn't like all the others, this particular block, because it's at the end of the row, right next to a commercial zone.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're
Yeah.
purely looking at filters, you wouldn't.
So, so what is that telling me as an architect? That if the person that buys this puts a 2-story dwelling, and the person that buys the commercial property puts a 5-story building, in my eyes, as an architect, that's going to look pretty stupid to see a 5-story building scale down to a 2-story building, and then go down the streetscape at 2 scales, right?
Yeah.
That is pretty silly.
Right.
What if I told council a different story? Hey, this streetscape is going to look silly, and I think I have a solution to your problem when this happens. What if I propose that on this very last lot, instead of 2 stories, I can go 3 stories, knowing that the commercial guy will probably go 4, and then my neighbour's at 2. So we've got to scale down.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's not the site telling me anything. It's the story I'm building up as to why I should argue my point. So now I've got the filtering process, and I've got this extra little bit of tantalization that if they allow that, I'll get more yield. And that's this key to buying that property. So we go to auction. You've done all your homework. You know maximum 2 levels. Your architects told you. You know you'll only get 2 on there because that's what the site says. If you put that into an AI platform, it's going to spit out 600 square meters, 2 dwellings.
Yeah.
I come along, buy it way above, beat you at auction or the for sale campaign, and suddenly you drive back there one day and go, this guy's got 6 on there. How the hell did he do that?
So they're doing their feasibility on 2. You're doing your feasibility at 6, so you can afford to beat them.
Now, this isn't a phenomenon I just developed for myself. I've been doing this for 30 years for clients. I've just
Yeah.
refined it over the years and kept refining and kept refining. What can I see that's invisible? Hence why I developed the persona of the invisible architect. What can I see that others can't see? Is there something unique that I can see? Because the average person, won't probably ring an architect to get more information, or if they do, they won't go to the level of depth that I will, but I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So you're basically taking the creative approach where you're looking at the surrounds, where the city or where the area is going to be built out by, and then you're finding an opportunity to justify or promote a story to the council
Yeah,
by
and I
way
have
of
to believe it, by the way.
storytelling.
It isn't a matter of saying, I must have what I want. No, the story I tell has to be real. I have to believe it. Because how's council going to believe it if I don't believe it? It's
Mm.
not a
You've got
matter
no
of,
conviction
yeah,
yourself.
I actually
Yeah.
think this is wrong. This is ridiculous. This street's going to look shocking once this building goes up. But
Yeah.
I think I've got an idea here. Let's go with this idea. And they might turn around and say, you know what? You've got a point there. Because councils have a one size fits all approach. They have a checklist. But it's wrong. It's wrong. Not all sites are the same. Not all sites have, you know, that next door or that next door, but yet they have to have a checklist. I just try and defy the checklist. If I believe it's wrong, I defy it.
Yeah. And present the case. So
Sorry, yeah,
yeah.
like a lawyer.
Yeah.
I ask myself the question: if I'm going to present to the council, I know what they're going to do. They're going to shoot off an email and say, "You've asked to break all of these guidelines. Why?" That's what they're asking. Why?
Yeah.
Now I have to be able to justify the why. Otherwise, it's going to be a no. If I can get them over the line and they believe me, not because it's fake, but he's right. This is wrong. He's right on this particular occasion. That's what I rely on. And that's the edge that I have, and that's the edge I'd like to teach people, which means that a lot of properties that people bypass, they bypass them not understanding that perhaps that was the right site for them.
Yeah. So I think how many developments have you done personally?
So on a personal level, either on my own with my wife or a joint venture partner, I've done 40 over 30 years.
Yeah.
And hundreds for obviously for clients and developers. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite development?
I do. Yeah. Probably two.
Yep.
One of them is a bit sentimental. It was 2012. We converted a former Anglican timber church in Melbourne that was destined to be demolished, but my wife and I bought it to save it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the local council knew our work, and they were all trying to save it. It wasn't heritage listed. And so we came up with a plan to convert the church, add contemporary additions, and save it and build it and eventually move in ourselves. And the council, we worked with the heritage architect, even though it wasn't heritage listed, so that ultimately when we got approval, they then slapped the heritage overlay over it. So
Yeah.
they let us get approval, then they slapped the heritage overlay. So I was solving a problem for them, saving it. They were solving a problem for me, giving us latitude.
Yeah.
So it was a win-win. It wasn't. So my wife designed the project. I built it, physically built it, day and night. Kids were little. We were going to move there. The market took a really bad turn in terms of. I don't know if people can remember 2012. Social media was in its infancy. I was unfortunately diagnosed with an issue where I had to have major leg surgery, like major surgery. And we found ourselves with no work, me laid up from surgery, and a doom and gloomy 12 months.
Yeah,
Too
crescendo problems.
risky to make this move. So reluctantly, we put it on the market on its completion. We had I'll call it a going away party, but we had a party, invited all of our clients. We had a jazz band. We had it catered. It was one of the best events spaces we've ever had because it was a church, right? And we said goodbye. It got sold, and it got a record price for like unheard of. But then we found ourselves with no work. The house is sold, dispirited because we loved it. We just put our heart and soul in it. And I was laid up in bed, had an iPad, and did something. So I wasn't IT savvy. Social media was in its infancy. I think Facebook might have even just started around then. I don't know.
Just starting to get
Anyway,
rolling.
cut a long story short, I was going through social media, and there was a platform in America called Houzz, HOUZZ. it started to get traction around the world as the go-to home remodeling platform. I didn't know this at the time, but that's pretty much what it was. Based only in America, and architects, interior designers will download their work onto this platform, and home buyers, or free, and home buyers would go through the platform and be able to see architects' work and send them messages, um, ask them about their work, and you'd engage with them. So I don't know why I did it, but I downloaded the church.
Right.
Well, there's nothing left. I'll just download all these beautiful photos of the church. I know it sounds a bit silly now because of where social media is, but it started getting likes, click, 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 click. Like it grew in the hundreds.
Yep. The traction just
But
got
you got to
viral.
understand, imagine a world where social media doesn't exist. This is unheard of. Who are all these people in New York, London? Who are all these people loving our work? And then we started getting, a TV media company in Germany wanted to fly out to do a show on the church. We started getting the same sort of response in America. Newspapers all around the world, media agencies all around the world, magazines, all wanting to descend on the church.
Wow.
What's going on? And like I said, who are these people? And our public image started to grow, and we started getting work. So the irony of it, hang on, we couldn't get any work because this church is now we sold it, and now because we sold the church, we're getting work.
Yeah.
And so that's my favorite building, and I still can't drive past it, by the way, because
Ah.
I guess I can't drive by it. It's so beautiful. And House went on to be one of the biggest platforms in the world. We won an award because we were the most downloaded architects on their platform, even in America, year after year. They decided to open up in Spain, Italy, and Australia. So they flew us to Sydney for the opening of the platform in Australia,
Wow.
which was fantastic. It was really nice. And I then became a writer for them. I wrote articles for them, and that went off really well. And I was really excited because the average read of my articles was about 15,000 at the time. Their editors, 1,000. But if you read my articles, I wrote them like I speak. It really, really resonated with people. So, um, so that's my favorite building in terms of
Yeah.
is the
So you didn't get to end up living in it, but it did help you in a lot
Oh,
of ways.
it massively took our profile to another level. Once again, there's little things in life you connect the dots. It led to other little bits and pieces. Clients we have today. It just all the dots keep connecting back to that church.
It seems like what
Mm.
you've really done is you've turned your challenges into springboards in some sort of
Yeah, and
weird, unique way.
I'm happy you said that. Everybody has problems in life, and a really good architect that I did some work experience for taught me. He said, "Dom, there's an answer for everything. There's always an answer. If you can remember that, you're going to be a great architect." And so, whenever we hit a hurdle, even today, I always say, "Okay, where are we going to find the solution to this problem? That someone has it, a location, a person, a book, an article, and it really there is an answer for everything."
And speaking of hurdles, I think a lot of the time online when people talk about property and development and finance and money, they're always sharing wins, which I think is great and it's important. Unfortunately, you don't always hear about the losses or the, mistakes. I find you on Instagram, you're really transparent about that sort of
Yeah.
thing, which I think is important as well. Do you have any projects that come to mind where, you didn't make money, you lost out, it went terribly, or you made mistakes and what were your learnings from that?
Um, Church is a big one because
Yeah.
ultimately, although we got a record price, we were building it for ourselves, and so money wasn't an issue in terms of overcapitalization. So we basically um, spent too much, got our money back. So we didn't lose money, but time is money. I spent a
Yeah.
year there,
Yeah.
I know, and so Marie spent a year, and time is money. And because time is money, oh, could I have been doing something else? What if I had done this? What if I've done that? But the reality is, it's the time that generated the growth,
Mhm.
not the profit. It's what happened there, what I did, what we created. So, um, look, I probably financially haven't lost on projects, but there have been many, many errors in terms of processes that are hidden in property development. Often people will often say, "I did really well on this project. I made 200,000." What they probably really didn't know, because they didn't know the answers to everything, is they probably could have made 300,000.
Yeah.
There's a hidden amount of money that's hidden in a project that if you knew the obstacles and had changed tact,
Mhm.
you wouldn't have left money on the table. You know, I'm documenting one on Instagram, which is live at the moment, and I've just detailed one of the fundamental mistakes I've made on this project, and I have never made it in 30 years. And that was, I purchased this property, and I've got to give myself a little bit of slack in that I didn't go to buy this property. I famously told the story how I went to buy milk, came across the auction, no one turned up, so I bought it. Normally, I prepare for these, like I psych myself up.
Yeah.
I write down a list of all the conditions I'm going to put on the so I'm ready to go. So I turn up in a fluster, no one's there. I buy it under value, and before you know it, I've forgotten to tell the agent to put a condition on the contract that they were to allow me access during the settlement period, the vendor,
Yeah.
Right.
and that the vendor wouldn't object to anything I do, that I could put an advertising sign on the fence, and we need consultants to go there regularly to have a look at the property so we can prepare a development application. Though I did get a verbal agreement and a handshake from the agent and the vendor, I didn't put it on the contract of sale. And probably one of the reasons I forgot was I knew the agent very well, so we were bantering too much, not
Yeah.
not really focused on the sale of the contract. And the other thing is, believe it or not, as simple as this, we live in a digital world now, and everything was on the iPad.
Mm.
So, sign here, Dom, sign here, initial here, initial here. In the old days, the contract's sitting on the table and you're flicking through the pages.
Yeah.
There was no flicking of the pages, and that's dumb. But having said that, I made the error. Um, and but having said that, I've never met a vendor in my time who's unreasonable and who would deny me access regardless of whether I asked for it. Unfortunately for me, this particular vendor was extremely bitter, as I found out. He had sold the house way less than what he had paid for it. He's quite an angry person, wasn't accommodating, um, and didn't allow us access. Wouldn't even allow the bank's valuer to go there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Not only would
nuts.
he not allow it, I had a 5.5 month settlement period, which was awesome as a developer because you can do all your planning and get approvals in that period. And by law in Melbourne, they have to give you a pre-settlement access 7 days before. So on the 7 days before, I was able to get a valuer there, but it was too late for the valuer.
Yeah.
The vendor was also extremely angry at me because I had obtained access to do bits and pieces by he had put in a temporary rent, someone to rent the property. So I put a letter under the door to the tenant asking if he could give me access.
If there's a
Yeah.
will, there's a
I told you
way.
there's always an answer. I found
Yeah.
a way to get it. And the preamble to that tenant was, "Hey, don't know if you know me. I'm the new owner. I'm taking possession in March. Thought I'd introduce myself. Sounds like you might want to stay. Um, come settlement. Here's my number. Would you like to ring me?" So that was my entry for getting
Yeah.
him to ring me. Otherwise, why would he ring me? He did. He didn't ring me. He texted me saying, "Yeah, no worries. You can get access for." I said, "I only need 20 minutes." So he gave me access. And that really got the vendor angry. And not only did it get him angry, he called the council. They stalled the project. He told the council a bunch of untruths, that he wasn't aware of what I was doing. It was totally aware. We had it in writing. I threatened to pull out of the sale because I was so upset that he had told all these untruths. We had it all documented. So I wanted people out there to know that even as an experienced person, I had made a fundamental error of not having the conditions in that contract of sale. I was in the box office seat. They had no other buyer. I could have asked for the world.
Yeah.
Now, could it have still made the vendor not give me access if he's a real asshole? Probably could have,
Yeah.
but at least I had it in
And
writing.
in most cases, like you said, most people are reasonable. It wouldn't be an issue, but it just happened to be that.
I just happened to strike that one.
That
Yeah.
one time.
And there is unreasonable people out there, I
Yeah,
guess. So you have to.
and so the lesson learned is, okay, I've got my first unreasonable vendor in 30 years. Okay, how do I deal with it? I can't get access. How do I get access? How do I bypass all of these little obstacles? The agent his agent. I felt he treated us unfairly, really unfairly. I don't want to go into it because it's not my place to, but
Yeah.
unfair. And so these things need to be told to people because I'm never going to make that mistake again. And people that are following me will never make that mistake. The
Yeah.
importance of understanding your errors and making sure that on the next project they don't happen.
Yeah, if someone else can learn from your
Yeah.
mistake, that's great. It's
Yeah. So that happens. So that is on the day one of your journey. You found a property. You're about to sign a contract. Oh, hold your horses. What does the contract of sale say?
yeah,
Is there anything else in there that you might have to really have a good look at? Like in Melbourne, we're lucky. We have what they call a Section 32. It's a disclosure statement. So in Melbourne, when you buy a property, it comes with a document telling you everything that the vendor and the agent know is wrong with the property.
That's pretty transparent. Yeah.
Well, they didn't disclose many things either.
okay,
These particular, so I had that up my sleeve as well. I could have pulled out of this sale
yeah,
easily.
Okay.
They had to also inform me they were going to rent the house out. They didn't. So once people learn how to even read the contract, it puts them in a power position.
yeah,
Even during settlement, gives them leverage. Like I was going to pull the lever and I didn't, and say, you know what? I don't think I'll settle on March the 11th. How's that? And here is my reason why. You didn't disclose this, you didn't disclose this, and you didn't disclose this. Oh, by the way, I don't think the agent did disclose it either. And you know what? I'll probably take the next 14 days up to make up my mind. And I could have pushed it out further. I could have taken the hard-nosed developer approach.
yeah,
I'm not saying people should do it, but if we're going to have some what would we call them? Something up our sleeve. Well, I had that because
Yeah.
I'm dealing with someone that's unreasonable.
yeah. So, and I think leads on to a good point. As a lot of people want to be involved in property, development, and a lot of people want to do projects. If you were in a position where, you say you're a couple and you have a decent household income and you might have some equity in your house, you might own one investment property, for example, and you wanted to work in a development project and start your own development project, what would your recommendation be about getting started and finding a good
Yeah. Okay. So I once sat down and said to myself, I have many clients that came with me with no knowledge, little money, and where are they today? They're multimillionaires. One of them's one of the biggest property developers in Melbourne. How do they go from zero, no knowledge, to where they are today? I thought there was a secret formula. I thought there was something I was missing. But at the end of the day, what I discovered really was that they weren't silly. They didn't lack intelligence. In fact, they were far smarter than I was. They built a team. They
Yeah.
understood their limitations and said, "Well, we don't know what we're doing." They've gone to their real estate agent, bought a property, and as I said, the real estate agents are really good referral people. They said, "Go see Dom. He'll guide you through the process." And by the way, their strike rate at getting approvals is 100%. I suggest you give this guy a call. So they would come to us and say, "We heard about you. Would you take us on? We don't know what we're doing." That's fine. You've made your first call, and that is me. So now you've got your architect. As your architect, I'm going to build your team. We need for that project a land surveyor. We may need a landscape architect, a town planning consultant. So we built the team. They would ask the question, "Oh, what's a town planning consultant?" Or what's a... So we would educate them, build the team, execute, move on to the next stage. Build the team, execute. So that's when I realized, oh my God, they don't need to know anything. They just need to build the team, and the team will execute Elon Musk doesn't know how to build a Tesla. He's
Yeah.
got a team of people building him the Teslas,
He's,
right?
he's good at finding the right people.
Once I realized that was the key, I now adopt that philosophy in life. What do I need to execute, and who are the team members? And team members get swapped in and out depending on the projects that you do. We may not require a traffic consultant on this project, but we do need an arborist. So if you're a young couple out there, I still think it's safer to do it as a joint venture partnership.
Yeah.
You can do it on your own as long if you've got serviceability, you've got security, and you've got everything the banks need, and you're okay with risk. All developments have risk. It's
Yeah.
just the nature of the beast. That's how you make money, because there's an element of risk. Will the market change? Will the market not change? So even if everything lines up, do we all know COVID was going to turn up?
Yeah, there's all variables.
And
that
when
you can't
COVID turned
control.
up, all of my clients sold everything because they were told by the banks, and the banks even told me, we actually got an email from the bank. We may have to relook at your loans because they're going to go down 30% in value of the properties. So when COVID's over, expect a knock on the door.
How wrong
What?
they were.
Yeah.
We got that email. You know what happened? The opposite. Properties went up 30%. So people that sold would have been devastated. So build the team. Do it if you can do it with another couple, or even if you're 2 girls, 2 guys, or whatever. If you can do it with someone else, it's just gonna drop the risk a bit, and
Yeah.
also it'll help with serviceability. Instead of having to come up with 20% deposit, it's easier 10% deposit.
I think that's a good point. Like with
You know?
partnerships, like Bart's bought property with his brother. They've done a project and they're buying another property together now. With that business, I have a business partner.
Yeah.
The benefits, there's a lot of unexpected benefits with having a business partner. People often talk about the negatives around that, but I find we share the workload.
Yeah.
We're able to grow fast and move fast. What's your advice around picking who to partner with?
Okay.
And then how do you structure that in the right way? Like what conversations do you have to pre-frame?
Okay. I'm a big I'm into the detail, and
Yeah.
and the devil's in the detail. It isn't as simple as saying to someone, "This will be fun. We'll work on it together, and we'll both do all right."
Let's hold
It's
hands,
never,
skip
ev-
over,
it's
jump
never,
over
it
rainbows.
will never work. Someone is going to do more work than the other. There's going to be animosity,
Yeah.
and there's going to be people that are, and friendships will be broken.
Yeah.
And I found a solution in my early days, where I had that happen to me, but I was single and young, and it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It did bother me when I got married and had kids,
Yeah.
and so the other party was in the same position, yet I was doing the bulk of the work. It's not, you're not in business anymore with your partner. You're in business with their wives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it becomes a delegate, and this is how you resolve all of that. I think everybody should get paid. Everybody should get paid for whatever task they do. So if I was doing a joint venture with Bart, I would say to Bart, "Hey Bart, would you like to do a joint venture with me?" "Yeah, I'd love to." "No worries. Well, here are the rules. We're going to have to find a property, and it requires time to find one. Are you in?" "Yeah, I'm in." Bart might say, "Oh, so I'll spend every Sunday doing that." And I say, "That's fine. So will I. Maybe. I don't know. How about we do this? Whoever finds the property, they have, there's a fee attached to that. It's 1% of the value of the property. So you can spend 1,000 hours or you can spend 0. But if you find the deal, you get paid for that.
You've generated that value.
Okay,
in
so
the deal.
you in the feasibility study, Bart, finder's fee, 1% of $1 million, $10,000.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in the feasibility. Are you okay with that? So if you find that tomorrow morning on the first day you get 10 grand, that's right. But if I spend 100 hours, 200 hours, 300 hours, and you spend nothing, and I find it, I still only get 10 grand. But I've lost 300 hours of other work. So it's that's the deal. Okay, that's a fair deal. All right. Okay, now we've sorted that out. Let's start the next bit. Who's going to work on the project? What's our roles? You're a doctor. You can possibly work on it during the day. You're in surgery. You're doing this. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're in partnerships. I've got more flexibility. I don't have kids. You have kids. So we need to have some sort of agreement as to who's going to run the project, who's going to be the project manager. Someone's got to charge for it. Can I come up with a proposition? I've got more time, more knowledge than you have. Let's say I can give you 2 scenarios. I've done some homework on the internet, and the going rate is 2% of the value of the project. Or if you're uncomfortable with that, we can do an hourly rate. Every hour I work, I get paid $80 an hour. And if you're really uncomfortable with that because it's an unknown, let's come up with a fixed fee. How about I charge 50 grand and I run the whole project? Okay, that sounds reasonable. I'm expecting nothing from you, Bart, because you work full time. But however, if you do decide that you want to work on it, I have a fixed fee. Let's say you work 50 hours on the course of the project because you've made time. Let's set out an hourly rate. Are we okay with that? Yep, we're okay with that. And then I would get an agreement signed up, even if it's my best friend.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what that does is it sets the parameters as to who finds the property and how do they get paid. It sets the parameters who works and who doesn't, right? And it also sets the parameters of, I'm also happen to be a landscaper. And so my landscape company is going to do the work on the project. I'm not doing it for free just because I'm the developer. My fee is comparable to anyone in the industry. Are you comfortable with $10,000? Because that's what we would have paid anyone. Yeah, that's fine as well. In my case, I'm an architect. I get paid to be the architect, right? So it's about setting parameters, who does the work, and then setting up a formal agreement, and then going to a solicitor, setting up the formal structure. And trust me, if you follow that path, there will be no animosity during the project.
Because there's no surprises, there's
No.
no things you haven't covered ahead of time.
Yeah. So at the end, you split the profit because you put in equal investment. You both put in 100 grand. So at the end, after all those costs are deducted, you split it 50-50. Now, if someone says to Dom, hey, Dom, Bart got 50% of the profits. He didn't turn up once, didn't find the property, didn't give any guidance. He did nothing. Yeah, I know. I got paid. I'm cool with that. Bart said he's only an investor.
Yeah,
He's not
I've
going
got
to
skin in the game. I've got
skin in
money in the game.
He doesn't want to work.
I think that applies for things outside of development as well. Like if you're a business arrangement,
Anywhere.
anything, that would be applied.
Partnerships break down the day someone wakes up and says, "Why am I always working and they're not?"
Mm-hmm.
And then we split everything.
Yeah, so
Even if we're mates, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's not fair.
It's not fair.
Yeah. That clear communication around what everyone's responsibilities is before we enter an agreement.
Look, I know people that have taken this on, love it. They've gone to the next level. They've even formed agreements how everything is communicated. Do we agree it's going to be on a WhatsApp group? Do we agree on that? Do we agree it's going to be by email? Do we also agree that if there's no exchange of information between each other after 3 days, that the decision is my decision? Because time is money.
Yeah.
Let's have the hard discussions now, because if you think this is hard, what's going to happen during the project?
Yeah.
When things go wrong,
and friendships are valuable things, right? You don't want to, win on a project and lose a relationship, especially if it's a good one.
yeah. I have a famous client used to laugh at me, but even joint venture partners, I say to them, I'm going to show my age again. So, Three Musketeers. Do you know the Three Musketeers?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Three Musketeers were three guys on a horse, right? And they used to ride into the sunset, but they had a motto. And at the end of every movie or show, they get on their horses and they would ride away and they would yell out this motto: "One for all and all for one." Right? And I love that motto. And if you look up that motto, what does that actually mean, right? So I say to a client or a joint venture partner, I will only do business with you if you sign my Three Musketeer rule, right? One for all and all for one. What does that mean, Dominic? Well, it means this. We're going into business together. We're a team, right? Whether you're all. Now, the single person, the one, will support the team. So one for all. But I need the team to support me as well in this venture we're going to do together. Do we agree? Okay, more clarification. Okay, if we
Let's get to the details.
if we make a lot of money, we make a lot of money together.
Yeah.
If we fail, and we've been friends for a long time, if we fail and we lose together. You will not be pointing out at the end of the project, I was to blame, or the consultant was to blame. No, remember, one for all and all for one. We walk away as a team and say, that was a bummer. Even if it was my fault, even if it was your fault.
Yeah.
Our friendship is paramount, one for all. If you don't agree to that principle, I can't work with you because I'm human and I may make a mistake. You may make a mistake. What destroy a friendship? Because I forgot to make a call, forgot to make a condition. One for all and all for one. Okay?
We actually, myself and Bart actually had that conversation before we worked together.
Yeah.
We said, I think it'll be a great thing, and I think we'll do well, and it's got to be a positive thing overall. But
This could fail.
if it doesn't work out, at the end of the day, no hard feelings. We're still going to be mates after this because that's more important.
Well, you got to set the priorities straight. I think that's the thing: is be transparent about what everyone wants to achieve out of the outcome, and life can happen. Things can happen and get in the way despite all the planning.
True.
And in that case, it's in a worst case environment. Are we able to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and go?
Not point fingers.
What can we learn
You
from
can't,
it?
because
What can we do to
no one
evolve?
sets out. I mean, unless you've gone into a joint venture partnership with an awful partner, a diabolical friend, no one sets out to rip anyone off.
Yeah.
And lack of knowledge can sometimes make things happen that no one was aware of. I didn't know I should have charged for finding that property, and I wouldn't be so angry now.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could have charged the development vehicle. I've lost 100 hours, 200 hours. I didn't go to work for 4 months. Well, my friend, he went to work. He spent weekends with his kids. And here I was killing myself on the site. And my wife's saying they're horrible, but he's my friend.
Yeah. could have all been
Yeah,
solved.
whose fault was that? That's my fault,
Yeah.
not my friend.
Or even stuff like weather as well. Like I imagine, let's say, for instance, you're doing a subdivision site and you're hammered by weather. That starts to become an issue. 40, 50 days off the tools could make a big difference in your holding cost.
And even a harder conversation. There's more to this conversation, but I've just given you a snippet. But even this, okay, we've agreed on all that. We're all cool. Yeah, let's have another discussion. What if during the project, whether it be at planning stage or whenever after we bought a project, you come to me and say, "I've had devastating news. I need my money out.
Mm.
I can't keep going." What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
You want
that's an
out.
important
You're on
one.
the loan documents. You're on the company. You're a director of the company. Where do we go from here? Do we have a mechanism? I think we need to have a discussion if that was to happen. All right. The discussion could be bad luck. You stay. The discussion could be I reserve the right as the second partner, right, to bring in whoever I want,
Mm.
right? Not I reserve the decision to say to you, you can't sell it your half to your brother. I'm not going into business with someone I don't know or a friend, or you can't handle it. You want to drop it down to 25% and get another part. No, we're not having any of that. These are the rules.
Buy-sell agreements. And,
Yeah, buy-sell agreements.
Yeah.
Now they're hard, but things happen. Unfortunately, things do happen to people, and they'll come to you with that very one decision. Something's really we've had a devastation in the home.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I can't leave you in the lurch. What are we going to do?
Yeah. And
Oh,
if you plan for it, you can.
you plan for it.
There's a solution there.
So, and that I'm not saying this to mums and dads. I mean, even in hard nosed business, I've had that discussions with joint venture partners. I had a project I did with a real estate agent. And he said, Dom, the perception in the market will be terrible for me if it's found out that I'm in business with you. I said, well, we're not doing anything illegal. He goes, I know, but you know what it looks like? Other clients will say, how come you're doing a project with Dom and yet you're not doing it with me? And I said, what are you suggesting? Well, could you be the sole director of the vehicle of the company and I'm not on the contract? I said, I can, but that's not fair to you. Right? Because the loan documents with the bank have you as one of the borrowers and a guarantor and your
Yeah.
wife. But
Mm.
you're handing me 100% power of the company and to the trust we set up, which says I can distribute all of the money to whoever I want. I know, Dom, but when we go to sell it and we have to sign the contracts of sale with the buyer, if my name is on that as a director, they're going to say, you're selling me the project and you're also the owner. That
Mm.
doesn't sit well with me. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
offer
it's
you
that conflict
I'll
of
offer you a little bit
interest.
less. Or even if it sits well with me, that client's going to say, hey, yeah, you've done one with him, but you haven't done one with me. It's just not. Yeah, so that's why I don't want my name there. I said, okay, you don't want your name there. I don't feel comfortable with 100% power. This is what we're going to do. Let's go to a lawyer, write up another agreement outside of this, which
Yeah.
says, and you can sign that because only you and I are ever going to see this, right?
Yeah.
And that agreement says, the Dominic Bagnato is the sole director of the company. He has power of discretionary trust, but he must distribute all of the profits 50-50.
Yeah.
We're going to force him to do it. It's an agreement no one sees. It's you can take me to court. He
Yeah.
goes, but you're my mate, you're my friend. I trust you. I don't give a shit. You're my friend. What if something happened to me? You're in business with my wife now.
Yeah.
Now Marie likes you too, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
So I'm really a stickler, even with friendships. It's, and you know what the message that sends to them? Geez, I got into bed with the right person.
Yeah. He's considering
I
me as
really,
well.
I trust him 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to send all my partners Excel spreadsheets every week. This is how much money we've spent. This is where we are. And they would say, stop sending me the Excel spreadsheet. I just want you to know that when you deposit money, I am spending it wisely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I probably went down to every 2 weeks, and eventually monthly because they got sick of the weekly. Because I felt a bit guilt. I've got their money and I'm controlling the account, so I just felt
Yeah.
like I needed to let
That
them know.
transparency is quite
Yeah.
important.
Speaking of partnerships and on that subject, you've worked with your wife for many years. How
Yeah.
long have you and your wife been working together?
So I sold my first business to my first partners, and we started the new business in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
Having said that, it was so in that first business that I had created from university with my two partners, it was my business.
Yeah.
So my business, I controlled it. All our clientele were developer clients. So what it is in architecture, if you develop a niche, it's really hard to break into new niches. It's
Mhm.
not like we'd get a call from Royal Children's Hospital saying, "Hey, will you design us a hospital?" We've already established who we are.
You get
We're not going to,
shoeboxed into a certain
yeah, we're not going to
category.
get that
Once
work.
that flag's
Yeah.
in the ground.
You know, and often enough, we would design people's homes, and people would say, "Oh, we thought you just do developer work." And so once you're branded, it's so hard to unbrand. You
Mhm.
literally got to kill off and start again. So when I sold my partnership, there was a great opportunity with Marie to start the brand we wanted.
Yeah.
But what I said to Marie was, you know what? I had a really good red hot go for a long time. You supported me. What would you like to do? What's your business? How do you see this business going?
Yeah, what's the vision?
So her vision was, I don't want to do developer work, and I want to do homes, luxury homes. Doesn't mean expensive homes, but beautiful architectural work, true to who we are, our brand. And we're going to say no to work that's inappropriate.
Okay.
We're going to be great architects. And that was really hard for me to accept because I was in the developer world where everything is yes. And she's suggesting we say no to work.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit our philosophies. But so I turned it around. She's now running the project. She supported me. Now I'm supporting her.
Yeah.
Having said all that, we didn't work on the same projects. So all the clients were run by Marie, except for our private clients. So any developments that we did together, or we had joint venture partners, then I was involved.
Mhm.
So how did that work? Because we're in partnership. Well, it's clear delineation. So I was the concept man, the idea man, found the properties, the vision. This is how it's going to look like when it's finished. Here are my sketches. This is how I see the branding, the marketing. And Marie would sit there and go, right, I'll start executing it. She'll put on paper and with the staff, develop the concept, work the concept, extrude it, bring it back, discussion. So I physically had the idea, she executed.
Yeah.
And she's a brilliant designer. So it's I have an idea for an electric car, Marie will create the Tesla. You see,
Yeah.
yeah.
So these work well together.
Oh, awesome.
Skills complement each other.
We could probably not work on the same project together with the same role. Someone has to give up creative control.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge in a household full of
It was hard in the
creatives.
early days. It's much easier because Marie is gifted, and so when you have, it's like having a parachute. Yeah, I've got a parachute. Marie's got this. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of banter there because I give her really hard sites. And even the one I'm documenting, Marie, we're going to put a second dwell in. There's no chance you'll get a second. This is ridiculous. What have you done? That's okay, Marie. If you're not up for the challenge, I'm going to have to
So
step in again, right?
You're pushing boundaries and
Oh.
dodging frying pans
And
at home.
every project we've ever done, it starts with a fight.
Yeah.
It starts with this can't be done, and it ends with if you're not capable. Right?
Oh,
I love that one. Give it over, right? And I just love when she executes it and says, "I think I've nutted this one out."
You've got faith in her ability.
Shit, that looks
Yeah.
really good, Marie.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think this is where we're going to go to develop further.
Yeah.
I really have that much faith in her, like complete safety. It's like jumping off a cliff. The net's there. It's gonna catch. So partnerships are awesome. One of the probably mistakes I made in life, nothing went wrong, but you got to choose your partners wisely.
Oh, yeah,
You know, in my
100%.
early days, I went into partnership with friends,
Yeah.
not necessarily people with skills that are
Mm.
complementary. Nothing went wrong. It was all went well,
Oh man, this thing.
but it works so much better when you're suddenly in the room with someone that has a skill that you got no, you don't have that skill.
Yeah.
And in recent years, it's that I've developed a better understanding of being in the right room, even if you have fear and are scared to be in a room that you haven't been into before. Being in the room, meaning being with a group of people that are like-minded, and you know you need them, but you have to go into that room. It's not safe
Yeah.
because you don't speak the same language, right?
You know what's good for you, but it's that
You know
fear
I've
of
gotta
taking
do
the
it.
leap.
And I've got to have this discussion, and I know that if I have a handshake agreement, they're going to complement the skills I don't have. That is hard.
Yeah.
I think
but
the hard part
essential.
as well is kind of picking up on the fact that we do have weaknesses. We can't execute on everything. It's to be able to lean on other people.
You have to. You have to find. I always say you have to find your people, and I tell you, when you find them, you get this overwhelming feeling of safety, even when you're risk taking, because you're in the right room. And so partnerships are extremely important, even in your business. Otherwise, like I always say too, you're not marrying just that person. If they are married to a person and they have kids, it's the dynamics of whatever life they live as well.
Yeah, it all ties in together.
I mean, I hear rumors that Elon Musk sleeps on the floor of the factories and doesn't go home. I mean, if you marry someone like that, it comes with the
It's got
that's
some
that's some
baggage and
baggage.
challenges.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very fortunate with my life. Like me and my now wife and girlfriend at the time, we've been together since we were 14.
Yeah, it's a long time.
So we've been able to grow up together, and you know, having that one part of stability in your life makes all the other areas easier to grow. And we're different people.
Oh, different. Yeah, I'm not saying the same.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, and we sort of grown up together. We're completely different to when we started dating to who we are now. And a big thing in our relationship is always supporting each other's pursuits and avenues. And that was actually in our wedding vows. We agreed to never limit each other in
It's
pursuits. And she's certainly made it possible for me to do what I do here.
Yeah,
And
it's true. If you analyze all of the gurus online, all of the information, if you put it into an AI, they probably will spit out that your life partner is probably one of the biggest decisions you need to make, and whether you become successful or not successful or
Yeah.
whatever you do in life. And I married Marie, and she always supports everything I do, even if she doesn't understand it, and vice versa. By the way,
yeah,
I even had a discussion a while back, and I said, Marie, do you want to go to our deathbed with a full tank or an empty tank, right? And I was
Love that.
praying she'd say
Yeah.
the right answer. She goes, empty tank. I said, oh, thank God. Basically, what she said was, let's go for it. And if the tank is empty when we get there, so what?
Yeah,
You know,
lived a full life.
Had
we
a
lived a
crack.
full life,
Yeah.
because I said to her, have we lived a full life? Because I've always been self-employed. I've never worked for anyone.
Yeah.
Have I brought in this little family of ours? Have I not brought the right dynamic? Should I have gone to And she goes, "What a ride we've had! We've had a ride and a half. The kids have been under the desk during work hours. You've been able to pick them up from school. I mean,
But I think you have to constantly question it and go, could our lives be better? Could we, what's the next thing? Like I'll be asking yourself these
Yeah.
questions, because that's how you discover the new pursuits or make changes and improve your
One
life,
of the
rather
most-
than just accepting what's currently in front of you.
yeah, because it's not about money. I know people say, "Oh, it's not about money." Yes, we need money to survive, but it's the experiences that we have in life and the journey. And I've done a lot of homework on this because I want to know, am I on the right path? And nurses that have sat on the bedside adjacent to people that are dying, the men often say, and this is the men, that they regret a life of not undertaking things. Like, they don't regret losing money. They regret what they didn't start.
Yeah, not having to crack.
Not having a crack at it, right?
That's so important.
And the second one is not being around their kids. And I've had a lot of
Yeah.
developer clients that say that to me as well, not being with their kids. And women never mention that one about the kids because they have been around kids.
They're better at prioritizing
Yeah,
it.
better, right?
Yeah.
So they often don't say that one, but they also say the things they didn't do, right? And I remember listening to this one gentleman, I think his name is Rick Crowley. He does workshops in Bali.
Yeah.
Where you can go and learn about yourself. And he did this exercise online. He said, imagine you're 80 years old, in a rocking chair, close your eyes and look back at your life and what you've done, what you've achieved, and where you're going. What will you regret? Make a list in your head now. And so I started doing it, and I couldn't believe the result. It was everything I said I was going to do that I didn't do.
I think that's so powerful.
And I actually couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. Oh my God, I said I was going to set up a course. I never did it. I said I was going to buy a home. I never did it. I was too busy buying cars. Oh my God, I don't remember Max growing up. Oh my God, it's all the things I didn't do. All the
Yeah.
things I didn't do. I never once thought about, oh, what about that money you lost? Or that opportunity you didn't take and you could have made $1 million. It was never money. That changed my life. That one night,
Yeah.
the very next day, I started making changes.
Me and my wife, we had a moment where when our daughter was first born, we we're both working full time. We're actually working in the same business. And it was a good job and everything, just the hours and the limitations and lack of flexibility. We had this new daughter who we loved dearly, and we were putting her in kindergarten, for way too many hours and getting home and then trying to spend time with her. And we're exhausted after long days. And we just got to this point where like, this is not it. Like, this is not what we want. And
It's not what you signed up for.
we literally rented both our properties out at the time, moved in with her father-in-law. We changed careers. We changed the whole thing up. And now we're so big on any decision we make, like, are we limiting our choices or our freedom? And we're not in a perfect situation now, but we're in a situation where my wife's home with the kids. I have the flexibility, like, to go to
You made that decision.
yeah, and we've made those the priorities, and we're living true to that. And it feels like we're just living much more authentically to what's important to us. You never get it perfect, but
No,
it's a work in progress.
now, so you felt guilt leaving your kids.
100%.
Okay, I'll tell you the opposite story, right? So, I felt guilt because I was working from home. We're working at either an office or from home, and Maria was the same. And so I would go pick up Max or Alana at kindergarten, but there was nowhere to go. So I would race them back into the office because I'm at work. And then I set up cushions and mattresses under my desk and throw them under
Pillow
there, right?
fort.
And in those days, they had all the kids' gadgets. I forgot the name of them, all the handheld devices. I would throw that at them, right? And then the guilt got even worse during the day because they'd been there for hours, had their Legos spread everywhere. And so I'd take them to the lolly shop on the Logon Street, the donut shop, and feed
Make
them.
up for it. Yeah.
I just went for years, right?
Yeah.
I felt guilt for years that how could I do this to my kids, right? Not understanding that the perception of the child is completely different, right? They're 21 and 22, and they said, "Dad, do you remember when we used to go in the office and you'd make the cubby house, and we would play with the Lego,
Oh, wow.
and we'd go to Logon Street and we could spend hours with you." They saw like another story.
It's the beauty of a different
I thought-
perspective.
I thought I'd let you down. No, Dad, we loved it. Do you remember the lady at the lolly shop? Oh, not the lolly shop, the ice cream shop. You'd come in and you'd order, 2 scoops for you, for me and Maxie. We always went there after school. They remembered all of the experiences.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, oh God, I can't complain anymore,
Yeah.
And then when they told me that story, the very next day I was driving locally where I was. It was 5 in the morning. It was pitch black. And I saw this lady running towards a train station with a baby in her arm, running. But as she got towards it, she stopped at the childcare centre, ran out, and ran to the train station. And I looked and I thought, oh my God, I don't want that. I don't want what
Yeah.
she's got either.
Yeah.
There's no chance I'm going to have that. And it's not fair. That's not
Yeah.
fair either. I don't know what the balance is. I need to tell you that because we knew this, we allowed all our staff, if you need to bring the kids in, you bring them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. There's no stress in this office. This is a safe office. Do what I used to say to them, you know how people take sick days off because they just want to they're not sick. We had a rule. You can ring up and say, I'm not coming in today, and we won't ask why.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So you don't
pretty
have to
powerful.
fake the sick day.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Your family comes first, right? So we always attracted great people because that was the philosophy. And I also took a break every morning so we started work, my partner and I, at 7. So by 10 o'clock, we were hungry
Yeah.
and wanted a coffee.
Yeah.
So religiously, my best mate and partner for more than a decade, every morning, 10:30, have a coffee. And that was a time to debrief or chat.
Yeah.
So every morning we would leave the office. And I said to them, it looks really bad that you and I leave every morning, even though they don't realize we come in at 7 and they come in at 9.
Yeah.
So we made an announcement. And by the way, if you guys, whenever you feel like you need to leave the office to go for coffee, just go. You don't have to have an official lunch. You don't see us having an official lunch. Do what you need to do.
Yeah. You don't need to treat people
And they started having it.
Yeah.
Stretch your legs, do what you need to do.
Yeah. And what happens is you build that culture up. And I remember one staff member was away constantly doing bits and pieces, and I didn't think anything of it. And I was there one Saturday morning. I get in and she's working. I said, Amber, what are you doing? She goes, I've been missing a lot of hours. I've come in to make them up. I was so wrapped,
Yeah.
because we had built the culture. We didn't need to be said.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the dynamics. If you dump your kids at childcare centre, you feel guilt.
Yeah.
If you don't dump them and you bring them to work, you feel guilt.
Yeah.
I think you're always going to feel guilt
I think
when it comes around kids.
I think good parents, can probably always be thinking they could do something better, right?
Yeah, that's true. I'll make you laugh, right? So Maxie, who's started kinder,
Yeah.
and so went on to kinder, and so he would be by our side, and we would give him drawings to draw in the office or in home or whatever. And so he started prep. So we have our first parent-teacher interview for the preps.
Mm-hmm.
And teacher says, look, we need to have a chat. Max is drawing of a house, It's completely different to the drawings of all the other kids, right? And we said, what do you mean? He said, well, we asked them to draw a house. So she showed us all the kids' houses. You know, the
Yeah.
typical little box with the triangle, the
Yeah, yeah.
chimney.
Two little squares
That's
with
what
a
mine look like.
half-baked
still, but
window.
yeah.
Max's house was a floor plan.
Oh,
Right. And in that floor plan, he had a bathroom, and the bathroom had each of the fixtures labeled WC, SHR, and T. She goes, what's, I know what a T is, it's the toilet. She goes, what's an SHR? I said, that's a shower. She goes, what's a, sorry, he had WC for the toilet. She goes, what's WC? I said, it's a water closet, right? And she goes, what do you guys do? I said, we're architects. And we laughed. We said, and we looked at each other. I said, Marie, you know, all the drawings we got into colour, they were old floor plans that we don't need it anymore. I said, colour in these, right? And he had absorbed all of that information.
In kindergarten, he's remodeling the room.
And
Everyone
so-
else is drawing
And
boxes.
even through high school, I remember Alana came home one night upset. Dad, you know, I was teased on the bus all the way home. I said, why? All I said, Dad, is look at the facade. You know, look at the facade. Look at that, right? And even the teacher said to me, what's a facade? You know, don't worry about it. And I took them when they were 10 or 12 years old and open for inspection. I had them by the hand each. So they might have been younger than that.
yeah.
And we're walking through the open for inspection of this house. And Alana's going, hey, Dad, look at the Calcutta marble. They didn't even get the 45. They didn't even get the 45 degree right.
I love that.
Max was going, look at the stainless steel there. They didn't even run it down the edge, right? They just, I'm not even thinking.
Ripping into it.
I'm not even thinking anything of it. We get to the end, and the agent goes to me by the arm, and she knew me. She goes, who are these kids, and what's wrong with them? I said, chill out, right? They understand materials, right? Max is now at uni in his wisdom to be an architect.
Oh, wow.
And
Following Dad's footsteps.
no, he said he's never following our footsteps and never wants to work for us, which is awesome because that's what he should do. And we didn't see it coming. I'll be honest,
Yeah.
we actually didn't see it coming because he loves his cars and he loves his music, but he wants to be that. Even in uni, he's struggling because at university they assume, not struggling in the way you think, they assume you know nothing.
Yeah.
So Max really had a hard time in first and second year because it was, this is a HB pencil. This is tracing
Yeah.
paper.
He's like, I've done all this.
And so
Yeah.
and COVID hit
Yeah.
online, fundamentals are basic, and we were worried, you know, because the universities have turned to online teaching. They're still doing it, which is ridiculous. You know, creative kids need to be in a room being creative.
Yeah, with other creative
Yeah, the
people
creatives,
too, engaging.
and he's now finding his feet because he transferred universities, and they're a bit more old school, the traditional studios presentation on, you know, you have to turn up. Yes, there are online recordings if you can't, but it's mandatory. You know, people need to collaborate with others in a room. I know people say you can do it on Zoom. It's not the same.
It's not the same. And whether that be a university or a workplace or
Doesn't
through an
matter.
apprenticeship or a trade, in person's the best way to learn.
Well, it's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's so relevant. Like I quite often say, obviously in our profession, you know, we can do the Zoom interaction, you know, via the phone, you know, in meetings online, but when you meet up in person, have that skin to skin, get to know someone, unpack it all, it's far more valuable. You remember and
think-
take on a lot more out of it.
Yeah, yes, there's a place for working from home. Don't get me wrong. And yes, I'm one of those people that goes past the washing machine, puts the laundry in.
I think the hybrid's the way to go.
Yeah,
I think
it's got to be a hybrid
Yeah.
because we can't change the world. The world has changed.
Mhm.
Okay, but we're still social creatures. You can't lock someone up for 5 days because they think it's good for them. They think they're getting the work done, and they probably are. Yes, they're getting the laundry done. The kids see them. There's a whole lot of bonuses, but it comes at a cost to themselves. The
Mm.
social cost that they probably. It's like having an illness that you don't know until it sets in, and then you'll know
Yeah.
eventually.
Mm.
And there's got to be a hybrid where you go to meet people, or even if it's a hybrid of meeting locally, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I do understand because we worked from home even before COVID. We would take 2 days off to be with the kids because they're on school holidays now. So we had the flexibility of being business owners and the flexibility to work from home. So I get it. But we're entering a new world now, and AI. I want to touch on AI because there's this fear about AI, especially even in architecture and even in development. I'm getting people excited that, you know, isn't it fantastic? There's all these AI platforms where we can plug in properties, for example.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what business you're in, and it can tell us what it can do in an instant. Isn't it fantastic? And I always say, it's not fantastic. Well, sorry, it is fantastic on a fundamental sort of level, on a low level. But if Bart's doing it, Nevada's doing it, and I'm doing it, and we're all going to the auction, what do you think is going to happen?
The price is going to go
Price is
up.
going to go up.
Yeah.
So how's it going to benefit all of us?
Yeah.
You now got, actually, you don't have more knowledge. You have a tool that's allowing you to have that knowledge. But then I come on board, right? So I don't do that. I'm a creative. So as the creative, I see something else in that property because I decided to be creative. So I'm doing something the AI can't do, is I'm practicing observational skills. Okay? AI isn't at that level. It can't drive to the site to notice things. It can only derive an outcome from data, aerial photographs, data. It can't get in there, push the bushes aside and say, oh my God, there's a whole wall in the boundary I can exploit.
Yeah, you got to get the standard answers.
Okay, you're going to get the standard. So my way of, I'm not worried because I practice observational architecture. I'm going to be teaching observational architecture. I'm showing up as a creative. Now that's me. So I'm not worried. Now, if you're, whatever industry you're in, you've got to adopt that approach. So can AI do what I do? If the answer is yes, you should be worried.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But can I show up and be creative in such a way that it can't do what I do? Because if I can do that, it can't replace me.
Yeah, our industry, they had there's some study internationally where our industry is one of the top to be likely to be impacted. And I do believe will have an impact. I think exactly what you said. I think you need to focus on the customer service, the high level problem solving, and
The
differentiate relationships, differentiate yourself in the things that the AI won't be able to do, at least for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
And use it as a tool to benefit your work.
Yeah, that's right. And I always say as a joke, and I say to people, this is my example. It doesn't exist. I said, imagine going to the restaurant of the future. It has an AI chef in there, right? It will cook you up the most amazing meal you've ever had. It will always 100% guarantee it will be the identical meal that you ordered the last time you were there. It knows who you are, the level of grains of salt, pepper. It knows who you are. It's the data is telling Dom's arrived. This is how he wants his steak, right? 100%, right? Okay. So you come in on that day, and on that day, that's what you're offered. But on that day, there's also the 3-star Michelin chef who's in the other room. Now, he will only be cooking today what's in season, organic, and picked fresh from farm to the restaurant. He doesn't quite know how all the ingredients will go today, but he's gifted and creative, right? And he has an idea of how that ribeye could look on your plate. Would you want the one you've been having every time you come in here, or would you like the Michelin star one?
Michelin
We're
star.
going Michelin star.
every
The
day.
creative one, right?
Yeah.
That's how
Surprise
I
me
see.
even,
That's
yeah.
how I see life, right? So whoever you are,
Mm.
use AI as a tool, not a replacement. It can never be. It can be creative, but it's generic. You know that. As soon as you say it's AI, it's not, because we're human.
Yeah, it's
We're used to
humorless.
we're used to that, right? I don't know whether if you Google this, you may find the answer. But one of my favorite stories that one of my favorite authors, Seth Godin, tells is about a lady, and I think she's in New York. She works at a 7-Eleven, not known for their coffee, but head office has got word that this woman continually has lines out the door, down the street, right, for her coffee. 7-Eleven, for God's
Yeah.
sake, right? This older lady, and they need to know why. There are machines that will make coffee automatically for you. There'll be AI machines that will make them for you in the future. But why has this woman got a steady stream of people down the road? They want to know. So they go there and they're observing her. And as each person comes on in front of her, they say, Nevada, she says to them, hi, Nevada, great to see you again. Having a cappuccino? One sugar, whatever, low-fat milk? And Nevada goes, yeah, no worries. You know what, Nevada? Not today. How about you try something different? You always come here and buy the cappuccino, right? And there's a banter. And he says, all right, Sharon, no worries. All right, see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Next person, bah! Good to see you again. This woman learned who her customers were. She learned their habits, what coffee they want. She made herself irreplaceable.
Yeah.
If she goes, there's no line. And the head office said to themselves, we can't ever replace her. She's not replaceable.
And you can't replicate it
You can't
either.
replicate what she's doing. She's showing up, and she's not saying to herself, I'm just a coffee maker.
Yeah.
No, she's saying, I
Taking
am a
pride.
barista. I'm more than a barista. I'm a creative individual.
I'm starting people's days.
I'm starting people's
Yeah.
days. I'm
Yeah.
a start. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. It's redefining what she does. The coffee is just a byproduct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
the answer is I'm
Yeah.
impacting 100 people's days.
Yeah, I know.
I
If
mean,
I don't
start
have
off.
my coffee, it's a problem for everyone around me. But
we went to the cafe today and we had a bit of a banter with that
Yeah.
young girl, right?
yeah,
And I would walk away saying to myself, would I come back here for the food? Yeah, food's great, coffee's great. But she was lovely.
yeah,
She engaged with us.
she was really trying.
She was trying. We were giving her a bit of stick. She gave back.
Yeah,
She was quite smart, and she was engaged. She could have easily said coffee. You know, what next? That's funny, right?
Yeah. Drag your feet back to the
She
kitchen.
did it. And what she was saying is, I'm not just a bloody, waitress. And I think that's where the world's going. You have to decide how you're going to show up.
hmm
And I don't really think it matters what profession you're in, because people often say, "I'm not creative. I'm an accountant." No. You can be a creative accountant. You can
Yeah.
be a creative.
yeah. I said that earlier.
Anyone
Yeah.
can be creative.
Yeah,
So I'm not scared of AI. I think it's actually, I use it every day. I think it's exciting.
yeah. It's
I love
it's
it.
a powerful tool. It's a good thought partner as well. Even just like
Watch it as a friend.
working through your.
Yeah,
I always
a
make sure I
sounding
say
board.
please and thank you. So if it takes over the world, I'm safe. At least I'm on the nice list. But
You're unsaved.
I asked the other day. I'm in a dilemma. Someone's asked me to do this, but I really want to do this, and I just don't know which way to go. Can you give me 10 options? And now it knows my language because you can build
yeah,
teams.
it learns. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dom, no worries. That is an awesome question.
yeah.
Is that right? And it gave me 10 things, of which 8 I thought, I didn't think of those. They're awesome.
I make a custom bedtime story with my kids every night using
That's
ChatGPT.
fantastic.
So I say, well, what do you want? And my little fella's the 2-year-old. Says, I want to be on a motorbike and doing backflips. And my 6-year-old daughter who dances, she's like, oh, I want to win Australia's Got Talent. And then it does the story and it, has like a nice message in, and then it makes a couple of pictures for them, and they immensely look forward to it every night. And it's they have that little bit of creative input as well. So
And they'll remember that. I saw on my feed yesterday, an awesome feed. A father took his kids' drawings and told AI to make them real.
I saw that. That was great.
The one about the animals?
Yeah,
Did you see that?
That was
so
awesome.
the animal, there might have been a giraffe with 4 heads or whatever, and they come to life and they move. What a memory to have.
Yeah.
If he took it to the next level and did a video book.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just priceless.
Yeah, kids will never forget that.
And it's getting to that kind of stage where you're eventually going to put a prompt in and you'll be able to create production off the back of that and build those memories and customize them. And it's a new way to experience being human, but in a creative environment.
And I'm sure they're going to be writers of kids' book, illustrators panicking. If they can do that, why would they need us? Because you're going to show up as a creative.
Yeah.
Okay, because anyone can do that.
Yeah, maybe
but no one can do what you do.
Yeah.
You see, no one can do what you do. Are you using a type of medium? That only knows one medium. But you might turn up in oil colors. I don't know how you'll do it, but you've got to. One thing's for sure, you've got to embrace change.
Yeah.
So how you make that change is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
The thing is, we live in a world now, and the gatekeepers are slowly but surely disappearing. The barriers.
Yeah.
You want to be a singer? Sing on YouTube. Want to be release an album? Go on Spotify. Want to be a writer? Go on Reddit. You can do whatever
you want to make a podcast? Go buy some mics.
Go buy some mics.
That's it. Yeah, and try and find some interesting people to speak to.
But if we bring our discussions back to one of my biggest beefs, and that is, have all the gatekeepers gone? I don't think they've all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest ones I think where it still exists is in because we're talking about property, the listing platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, we are being taken for a ride. In Australia, and I'm not having to go at the listing platforms. Their role is to generate profits, and I don't know if
they're doing really well.
Did you see the latest statistics? Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
That means billions of dollars out of our pockets, which translates to why property is expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
One of the reasons why, not just construction costs, they're a cost in the world. Now, how does it all work? So in my day, remember I told you about I used to do sketches?
Yeah.
So the two media organizations were Fairfax and Murdoch, right? I don't know how they did it. They were able to move quickly and convert to digital. Realestate.com.au and domain.com.au. So not many people made the change and lost their way. So an example of someone that didn't see it coming, Kodak. They're gone now.
Yeah.
Photography, right?
Massive.
Reading's books, gone. Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Toys R Us, didn't read the room, gone. But they saw it. I don't know how they saw it, but they saw it. So they re-established the gates. Do you want to list property? So in Melbourne, the biggest newspaper to list a property was The Age. It was so expensive. No worries. And the Herald Sun. So now they've gone to digital, domain.com across Australia. So if you want your home listed and seen by the most amount of people in Australia, you must go on those two listing platforms.
Yep, you've got to be
Despite there are other listing platforms, but let's face it, we all know you got to go where the eyes are.
Yeah.
So if they can brag 4 million people come to the site every day or whatever, and you have to pay
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
and thousands of
it's
dollars.
massive money.
I'm so sorry. That's and the agents are scared. I've spoken to agents. They can't ruffle the feathers. Oh, don't worry about it. We won't list your agency on our platform then. That will kill off an agent. It's unfair.
Yeah.
Mm.
And really, what are they?
What's the solution there? More options, more providers, competition.
Okay,
Alternative strategies.
Okay, let's have a look at what they are. They're a listing platform that show pretty pictures, right? And number of bedrooms.
Yeah.
But they fluff it up with data, which is excellent data. The prices of houses that are sold in the past year, like data, right?
Yeah.
But in essence, we're going there as home buyers or property buyers looking pretty much at pretty pictures. So they're
And prices if they're there.
Yeah.
their price of there.
It's gone by.
Yeah. Well, in Melbourne, I don't know about Brisbane, it's mandatory for agents to now list the medium price and the estimated sale price. They've changed the laws in Melbourne. So now
I think that will happen here. I don't think it's happened yet.
It'll happen.
It's a matter
it's
of
always
time.
tested in one state and it filters through, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So someone like Dom, who's not interested in all of the pretty pictures, and I told you earlier about all the filters that I want, they've got none of those filters. A homeowner, a buyer wants to know, is this property appropriate for me? What can this property do? Can it be renovated? Is it renovated? Is it whatever? Okay, it's expensive to go and hire Dom or any architect or any designer because what if I don't buy it? Can't get him to do a feasibility or concepts. So all the things that really people need to know are not there.
Yeah.
It's just pretty pictures. So I think there's room for a hybrid of that on redistributing the income so that some does have to go to the platform, but the balance goes to the creative people of the world to change the way properties are listed. And I've got some really interesting ideas how we can do that, right? And they're basically the filters that I use, the many filters I use. And there are many platforms that do this, right? And without going into great detail, I think the moment that platform is live, it'll change the world. Because remember, we spoke earlier, people buy stories. People may even buy a property once they knew the story. Hi, my house is for sale. I just want to let you know something. I'm really sad to go because we're moving on. Our kids are getting older. But I have a 75-year-old Southern Italian woman that makes me lasagna every morning living next door. Wow, what a neighbor, right? If it just went into just some level of detail, social detail, then, we had a word of a few architects and this is what they think. Just a bit more creativity. It just brings that listing to life. Now, I actually do that to find my properties. That's what I do. That's the observation I do. I have to physically look at the photos, go to the neighborhood. If there's burnt out cars next door, I already know it's not the property I'm going to be buying, right?
Not the
You see what I'm
street
trying
for
to
me.
say? I
Yeah.
do my own filtering.
Yeah.
Basically, but to make that happen, you have to redistribute the income of the platform because we need some of that money to go into marketing,
Yeah.
Right.
right? Into the storytelling.
Yeah, bringing in the human element.
Bring the human element. But there's
touches.
more. There's the creative, the human, and even the possibility that anyone can sell any property. So within that, is there scope? Bart's an agent in Brisbane, sees a listing in Melbourne. He knows that there's a unique code. He can log in. He's matched it with a client here. Gets a cut from the marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And somehow he doesn't get the commit, but the original agent still gets the commission. There are different structures. I've got 1,000 ways. I've actually worked out I know how this listing platform will work. But the problem with that, we live in a world now that the gatekeepers are so strong.
Yeah.
They are billionaires.
So if you're a software developer, reach out to Dom.
If you're a software developer or
We
a
got deep pockets.
or a
Yeah.
deep pocket. Now I've been invited to other platforms who have opened up,
Yeah.
and I go there and I say to them, "You're exactly the same." I know, but we're cheaper. But you're exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to compete on
Hang on
another
here.
metric.
You're cheaper. They've got 1 million unique views a day. You got 500,000 views a day. It doesn't matter that you're
So
cheaper.
if you're paying per view, you're actually more
You can't
expensive.
get in there. No one's going to see you.
Yeah.
Why didn't you create something different?
Yeah, let's create a new field for us to play on as opposed to trying to be cheaper in
So-
the same field.
One of the questions I had for you, Dom, and this is just an observation throughout this conversation and meeting you today. You've obviously had a lot of success in your career and a lot of wins, and it seems like
Fallen a lot.
yeah,
You just get up.
yeah, and you've persevered and you've got a good reputation and those sort of things. You don't seem to be at any means slowing down
No.
at all.
No, don't slow.
Where does the ambition
I'm really
come from, and
Yeah.
what's the purpose, I guess, moving
Okay.
forward?
So first of all, I started this whole journey even as a 7-year-old, and not many people know this. My siblings may be listening, but I did hear mum and dad arguing when I was little about money,
Yeah,
and it really wasn't a heated discussion other than how we're going to pay the mortgage. And I was about 10 years old, and I was always an artist, so I was always painting and drawing all my life, despite being an architect. I always wanted to be an artist or an architect. But
Yeah.
anyway. And I heard them, and they don't know this to this day, and Dad's not here anymore, but I took a day off school as a 10-year-old. I think it was 8 or 10. I can't remember the age. And I put 4 oil paintings that I painted as a kid on my back, and I went trying to sell them house to house to raise money, which is ridiculous if you think about it now. How much money could I have raised as a young little tacker, right? And I got chocolates, I got glasses of juice, but I didn't sell a painting, right?
Yeah.
But from that day onwards, I vowed that I would never ever have a mortgage,
Yeah.
and that home is to be protected, and that everyone deserves a home. It was so embedded in me that when I married Marie, she said it took 2 years to get that out of my head,
Yeah.
that it's okay to borrow money, and it's okay, to get a mortgage, and like it was, like I was
Yeah, those childhood
deep-rooted.
beliefs are strong. They take a long
and
time
so
to
I was
change.
really defensive of any if I saw a homeless person, I would be stressed out. So I made it my mission that everyone deserves a home. That's been my mantra.
Yeah.
And so this has continued to this day, and I still have this whole journey of even me launching a property development course didn't start because I wanted to teach people how to be a property developer,
Yeah.
although that's where it's going. It started with me being inundated on the news about people not affording their first home. First home buyers are suffering. People leaving school. Where are they going to go? And I knew that there could be an answer. One of many that I have. So I thought, I have an answer. I know how we can help them. And so that journey hasn't ended for me. So your question, where does this end? I don't think I'll ever stop that. I will still answer and field questions from people who say, can you help me get home? Because it means that much to me. And despite all of that, I still believe that there's no such thing as retirement. You may retire from a task or a business or a place of work, but you need to keep active in your mind and in your body, and be a creative person to the day you will die, because that will elongate your life.
Yeah,
And even
it
if
fills your cup up.
even if it doesn't, you go to that line quite content, as
Yeah.
opposed to being out of work or whatever for 2 years quite empty. You can Google this. Too many people die after they've retired, because one of the most important things in life, and it's very, very true, and I forgot what it is people need someone in life to love, but they also need someone, and they need a purpose,
Absolutely.
right? You need someone to love. So it would be ideal if you had a partner in life to support you in those good and bad times. But more importantly, do you have a purpose? And if you've got that purpose, you can wake up tomorrow morning and reinvent the purpose, or adapt or change, even if you lose everything. That's why I asked my wife, are we going to our deathbed with an empty tank or full? And she said empty, because she understood to continue the journey, we need to put ourselves on the line, take some risks, experiment, dabble here,
Yeah. Get out of the comfort
get out
zone.
of the comfort zone.
Yeah.